Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, news just broke today that George Santos might be taking a plea deal in regard to those 13 felony charges against him. He was supposed to have a status conference hearing this Thursday. Well, the prosecutor and Santos requested that the hearing be rescheduled for October 27th. The government's filing says that the continuance is needed for two reasons. The first one they stated was that Santos needs more time to review the, quote, voluminous discovery material. Apparently, they handed over a lot of stuff. They also say that they'll be giving Santos even more evidence this week, so he has to have time to review that. But then the second reason they gave was that the prosecutor in Santos' defense, quote, have continued to discuss possible paths forward in this matter, and they, quote, wish to have additional time to continue those discussions. So recently, Santos was a guest on News Nation. There was a legal show on there with Adam Klasfeld. And when he was asked about the possibility of taking a plea deal, he said, quote, I'm not making any assertions right now. Like I said earlier, I'm like, it's right now, the answer is no, but you just never know. So if he has a brain in that head of his, he will take a plea deal. He will leave Congress. He will head back to Brazil, because if he doesn't, there's other people out there who want their pound of flesh. Case in point is the Navy veteran who Santos allegedly scammed. He is considering suing him for defamation. You guys might recall this was a veteran, a man named Richard Osthoff. He claims that Santos fundraised money in the name of his very ill dog, Sapphire. The dog had cancer. Santos raised all this money. Then he refused to give the money to Osthoff. He made up a bunch of excuses, and then he ghosted him. He just refused to respond to his calls and texts. And then Santos absconded with the money. So Sapphire sadly died because Osthoff was homeless at the time. He could not afford to pay for her surgery to remove the tumor. Now, according to legal experts, Osthoff has a solid case on the facts, considering he has written messages from Santos. But there are two issues that they see with this case. So first, they say attorneys might be reluctant to take the case because there isn't really a large payout expected. Sadly, a jury might not be willing to, offer him or award him very much because Santos' statements didn't cost him a job or, something similar, something of monetary value. They also say that because Santos is considered to be a prolific and well-established liar, the jury might blow this off because, they're going to say, okay, how could he really defame you when nobody believes a word out of his mouth, right? But another story just emerged, and it could pose a serious risk to Santos. 56-year-old Adriana Parisi says that she met Santos through his mother. This was while they were both living in Brazil, and he completely ripped her off. He left her broke and literally living in a homeless shelter. Parisi apparently had inherited a bunch of money from her parents. Well, in 2011, right around the time that the Brazilian police came sniffing around, right when they were starting to question these checks that Santos stole, that's when Santos approached Parisi and he convinced her to move to New York with him. Now, according to Parisi, she paid for everything. She paid for their travel. She paid for the apartment. She and her young daughter lived with Santos. They all shared an apartment together. She even paid to furnish the apartment. So Parisi told the Washington Post, quote, I was bankrolling the apartment and food from my inheritance, and money kept disappearing from my drawer. Well, not only was Santos allegedly swiping her cash, she also says that he used her Brazilian tax information to go purchase jewelry on a line of credit in her name. And of course, didn't tell her, didn't ever pay her back for it. She also says that he threatened to, quote, break her face at one point. And then apparently Santos strung her along by offering to arrange a green card marriage for her. And he said that he was going to marry her to one of his so-called American friends. This guy wanted to do business in Brazil, he claimed. And Santos said, you know, you're going to get an apartment in Central Park out of this. So she, you know, went along with this because she had no choice at that point. At that point, her inheritance was completely gone. So she stuck it out with him. Well, the green card marriage never materialized. Then in 2014, Parisi's jewelry disappeared. Parisi shared Facebook messages with the Washington Post, and it shows that Santos just became vicious. He was downright cruel when she confronted him about everything and the stolen jewelry. Parisi wrote to Santos in 2015, and she said, quote, "They aren't your things. Why is this so complicated?" Santos replied to her, and he told her that she was, quote, "an ingrate filled with evil," and, quote, "a fat dump no one wants." And he said that she should, quote, "crawl back into the hole you came from, snake." This is while Parisi, by the way, was living with her daughter in a homeless shelter. And he allegedly ripped her off, and this is how he speaks to her. Then Parisi says that later that year, she and her daughter returned to Brazil. They were completely broke. But in addition to allegedly scamming and stealing from Parisi, here's what could really land Santos in hot water legally in the United States. Parisi claims that Santos himself took part in a green card marriage. Apparently, he married a Brazilian woman she paid him $20,000 so that she could become a U.S. resident. Now, 3 of Santos' former roommates have corroborated the story. They were interviewed by the Washington Post. They said, yes, this absolutely happened. And the information has now been turned over to the Office of Congressional Ethics. So that could get him in some other additional hot water. So we'll see what, if anything, comes of those new allegations. In the meantime, though, you may have heard one of Santos' aides. It's a man named Samuel Meal, I think is how you pronounce it. He pretended to be the chief of staff for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to raise money for Santos' campaign. Well, Meal received 15% commission on all of the money that he raised, and he was recently indicted on 4 counts of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. He is already, I mean, this just happened like the beginning of August. He is already looking to cut a deal. So I'll keep you guys posted on all of that. I will keep you posted on the Santos stuff. But yeah, this is why I guess he worked for Santos, you know, birds of a feather and all that. Anyway, it is heating up for Santos as well as others. Again, Nelly, no one take off your clothes. All right. Thanks to you all for watching and listening. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please become a donor if possible. Love you all. Take care. I will talk with you soon.